Hey y'all, it's Carly with A Short Engagement. Back for another just weekly video check-in. Topics always centered on how to plan a wedding in 6 months or less and sprint towards the aisle, because that's what we do around ashortengagement.com. I am wearing another fake ring this week. I don't remember where I got this one, but I did buy it just for our honeymoon, and it has come in handy once again since my real ring is going to the shop. Total side note, but I totally recommend buying some kind of like cubic zirconium little fakey like this and wearing it on your honeymoon, especially if you're going out of the country. That's what we did, and honestly it just made my life so much easier because I was really worried about taking it off to go to the pool or to go to the beach and forgetting my ring. Horror of horrors. Thankfully that never happened, and even if it had, it wouldn't have mattered because this beauty only cost me probably 20 bucks. So take a tip from me and go ahead and get you one of these. They may come in handy later down the line as well. On to today's topic, I wanted to talk about the first 6 things that you should do right after getting engaged, especially if you're planning a wedding in 6 months or less. I know that, right after you say yes to your fiance's proposal, the first instinct of most brides-to-be is to run straight to the nearest bridal shop and just start trying on gowns. Totally get it. This is definitely one of the most fun parts of the process. It can also be one of the most time consuming though. So that's not the point that I recommend starting at, especially if you're planning to get engaged and get married within 6 months. So step number 1 is to create a guest list. Womp. Yeah, I get it. Like, creating a guest list, it's pretty stressful, to be honest. There's a lot of decisions that you have to make. You have to, definitely take your fiance and his family into consideration. There's a lot of random aunts and uncles that you're gonna start, pulling into your memory bank that you haven't thought about since you were 10 years old at the family reunion. But that's the joy of wedding planning. You might want to just dive headfirst into a pile of tulle instead of diving into pen and paper and making a forever long guest list. But it's a very practical step to take. And that's just because there's so many other decisions down the line in the wedding planning process that will require you to know who is coming to your wedding and how many people will be attending your wedding. Right off the top of my head, just your engagement party. Can you not be chewing chips? Background. It's really loud.
It's not that loud.
No, it's really loud.
Babe.
No, it's
no
this is good.
No.
I'll be done in like 30 seconds.
There's no way that's picking up.
I promise you it is, because I could hear you in the kitchen in our last video. So just, off the top of my head, your engagement party, your bridal showers, there probably will be multiple of them, bachelorette parties, anything basically that is a party prior to your wedding day, rehearsal dinner, all of these good things will require you to know your guest list. Also, when you're meeting with caterers and venues, they're going to want to know how many people you're expecting. You'll need to make sure that your venue's capacity is a fit for your entire wedding guest list. So again, start with a guest list. It will take a lot of work, it will take a lot of time, but once you get that knocked out, it's smooth sailing from there. Step number 2, set the date. Really, that could be step number 1, honestly. I just really wanted to emphasize how important I feel that a guest list is. Chances are, though, you already have a date in mind like 2 seconds after, your fiance proposes. So, but you definitely need to set a date, and you will need to let any bridesmaids, any potential wedding party members, immediate family, you'll want to kind of clear the date with them first before finalizing that and sending out your save the dates to the rest of your guest list. Just because if somebody vital like, grandma or, stepmom or best friend can't be present on your wedding day, that could obviously cause you to take another date into consideration. So guest list and date, both are big deals to finalize after accepting your fiance's proposal. Step number 3 would be to research venues and to book them as soon as you can. This is not a requirement for planning a quick wedding, but I do think it's very helpful to look for venues where you can host your wedding ceremony and your reception in the same place. big bonus points if they also have in-house catering. So if you find a venue that you really love, but it happens to be booked before you've totally finalized your date and sent out those save the dates to everybody on your guest list, so we just checked off items 1 and 2, you might check in with the venue and see if they have any non-traditional wedding dates available. A non-traditional date would basically be anything other than a Saturday evening. Those tend to book first. They tend to book far in advance. But frequently venues will have like Fridays or Sundays or even Saturday mornings available. So if you've got some flexibility in terms of your date, you're not trying to get married on, say, like your 1-year anniversary, then that might be a good option for you, and it might open up a whole new slew of venue options for you to choose from. So definitely be sure to check and see if they have any off-prime dates and times available before finalizing everything. Oh, and bonus, if you choose a non-prime wedding date and time, you just might get a little discount as well, and who doesn't want a discount? All right, step 4, it's finally time to do the happy dance and go try on the wedding dresses of your dreams. This is definitely the fun part, and I love Pinterest. I do tell girls, like, don't spend too much time on Pinterest, especially after you have started finalizing some things like your venue, your decor, any rentals, just because Pinterest has a way of making you, do some compare and contrast that sometimes is not so helpful after you've already paid final deposits. But when it comes to trying on wedding gowns, Pinterest definitely can be a friend of yours. It can save you a lot of time when you're trying on dresses at bridal salons if you go in kind of having an idea of the styles that you might like to try. I would encourage you not to set your heart on one style just based purely off of Pinterest, just because when you put the gowns on, there is, sometimes things just change, and you put on a dress that you never would have seen yourself wearing, but suddenly you're just like, this is my wedding dress. That actually happened for me. I wore a strapless kind of A-line but ball gown dress, and it had pockets, and it just wasn't at all what I thought I would wear. I really like mermaid style dresses, and I had tried on a lot of those, but when I put this one on, it just felt like me. So I would go in with about 3 styles that you're looking to try, and definitely let the consultant that you're working with know that you are on a timeline. A lot of gown consultants, to be honest, will sort of freak out at first and say, like, whoa, you're getting married in 4 months? Oh my goodness, they take 6 months to order a gown. And if they say that, then you might want to ask if they have any samples available. Floor samples typically will be available at a lower price point. They may have 1 or 2 minor flaws, a little tear at the hem, or a little stain that you might need to get laundered out, but it can get you a great deal, and you can get it very quickly. And some might be in perfect condition. You just never know. So ask if they have any floor samples available. So step 5 would be order and send your save the date. So again, like I mentioned earlier, you don't want to finalize your date too soon until you've talked to kind of all of the prime and key members of your family and your wedding party. But once you're set and you've talked to your venue and you know that you've got your venue on the dates that you want, you are clear to send those save the dates. That's going to be really important to get those out the door as soon as you can, since your guests will need time to plan for your wedding, especially if you're doing a destination event. Etiquette does dictate sending invitations a minimum of 8 weeks in advance of your wedding. So if your entire wedding process is 8 weeks, send a save the date by email, like ASAP. And then I would still try to put something that is printed in the mail if you can, and if your budget allows you to, just because it really is a beautiful keepsake. I think it's something that you'll enjoy looking back on, and your guests will certainly love to receive it. Okay, and step number 6, the last step in these first 6 steps to take right after you get engaged, would be to start building your vendor list. If you're working with a wedding planner, which I'll do a whole nother video on that, but I do recommend working with a wedding planner if you're doing your wedding in 6 months or less. They should have a pre-built vendor list of just preferred vendors that they enjoy working with and whose services they can fully vet. So if you're working with a wedding planner, talk to them first when building this vendor list and say, who do you recommend? Who do you know that has availability on this date that I've selected? If you're not working with a wedding planner, I definitely recommend starting with a photographer and a videographer first. They are the ones who are responsible for capturing the memories of your wedding day. And it's a big investment too. You're probably going to spend a lot of money on a photographer if it's a good and well-known and established photographer. And chances are that they're going to be booked well in advance. Many photographers and videographers book up to a year in advance because, again, those 12 to 18 month timelines are traditional. So you'll want to get in touch very quickly with your choice A, B, and C vendors, especially in the realms of photography and videography. I do recommend having a choice A, B, and C just in case one of them are booked. I actually had found a couple of photographers, and only one of them ended up being available. But, you know, part of being a bride on the fly is having this ability to just go with the flow, be flexible, and make the most of kind of the opportunities that are afforded to you by your shortened timeline. So I ended up hiring the photographer who was available, and I loved them. I was really happy with our wedding photos, and you know, as long as the photographer has a strong portfolio on their website and a lot of reviews, you should be in good hands. But I definitely do recommend either a Skype or a phone call, something like that, to just have that, you know, person-to-person connection. I wouldn't just go off of somebody's Instagram or their website. You're going to want to get a feel, especially for your photographer and videographer, because they'll be with you all throughout the day, you know, from your getting ready process to the moment that you know, wave goodbye and step into the limo with your husband to ride off into the sunset. So make sure that you have a good personal connection with those two vendors. So other important calls to make are going to be your designer, your florist, your baker, your caterer, lighting, rentals, obviously your venue, but we talked about that earlier. So once again, if you're working with a wedding planner, work with them to choose from their preferred vendor list. It's just going to make your life a lot easier. If you're doing it on your own, start making phone calls as soon as possible. And again, realize that if you've chosen a Saturday evening wedding, there's going to be less choices available to you. If you do go with a Friday or a Sunday or just an off hour on a Saturday, you're probably going to have a better shot at getting, you know, the A+ vendor list of your dreams. So anyways, guys, that is those are my recommendations just for the first 6 steps that a speedy bride-to-be should take after getting engaged. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment, and I look forward to talking with you guys again soon.